Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk about the recently announced Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee Remaster, which admittedly came right out of the blue, and at least on paper is something I do welcome. The original Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, as well as of course Save the Earth, are both classic and beloved 3D fighting games, which allow you to throw skyscrapers at people. That alone should be more than enough to sell you on the concept. That said, there are a few things of note with regards to the execution. First of all, those of you that are eagle-eyed enough may notice that the color palette of this game has taken a notable turn. Everything looks way more orange now, similar in a lot of respects to the Oblivion remaster. And just like there, I'm not really a huge fan of this particular change. The original games were known for being bright and colorful as far as the color palette was concerned, and you could even argue that they played to the goofy nature of the games. Like I said, you're throwing skyscrapers at people. Fortunately, like with Oblivion Remaster, this is probably the sort of thing you can fix with a reshade preset. But it's not the only change that I have noticed. Another change worth bringing up is the fact that one of the kaiju have been replaced with another one. Specifically, Mechagodzilla 2 is getting replaced with Mechagodzilla 1. An interesting choice to say the very least, but it does also open up the possibility that this is a game that might end up getting DLC. This is a classic fighting game, after all, from a franchise that has a massive list of kaiju that it could pull from. Thinking it over, it'd be kind of weird if this game didn't end up getting DLC. But there is one other element that is worth bringing up, and that is, of course, the sequels that this game had. Godzilla Save the Earth is kind of a given if this game ends up doing well, and it's a pretty easy sell, what with that game being also a classic and having a much larger roster right out the gate. What I would say is more interesting as far as opportunities, though, is Godzilla Unleashed. Godzilla Unleashed is the black sheep of the series. The PS2 version is a distinct visual downgrade as opposed to, say, Godzilla Save the Earth on the Xbox, which admittedly is not a surprise, but it is still something worth bringing up. But the real tragedy, though, is the Wii version, which had a massive roster but was ultimately let down due to the Wii's controls. If we actually ended up getting to the point of a potential Godzilla Unleashed remaster, that would be a situation in which we could get the complete roster, unlike the original situation for Godzilla Unleashed, in which both versions had exclusive monsters, as well as both versions, of course, having specific hardware limitations that made them inferior to the previous entry, at least if we're talking about the definitive version of the previous entry. And in all honesty, I kinda wanna see Godzilla Unleashed be properly fixed. But ultimately that depends on whether or not Destroy All Monsters Melee itself ends up being successful. I really hope it does, but this is ultimately going to be a case of wait and see.